Play with us, Stanley. Forever and ever and ever.
Aloha,
Yeah.
everybody.
Agus céad míle fáilte. John, what the hell did you do to our faces? I mean, come on. That's just fucked up. But it's funny. It's very funny.
If those two girls that played the twins are still alive, please don't sue me for fucking up your character. Damn, I
I
make
think, I think they are. I'm sure I read something about them traveling the con circuit. But no, I'm not that entirely sure. But here we are again today to discuss. I'm reminded this year of the prologue to Scream, right? And I'll tell you why. In the original Scream, where Ghostface asks Drew Barrymore, "What's your favorite horror movie?" She says things like Halloween and Friday the 13th. And in the new one, Jenna Ortega talks about elevated horror. And in terms of elevated horror, this has to be the ultimate elevated horror. I know Hereditary is fairly messed up, but The Shining is like it's just it is a masterpiece. There is no question about it. This is a masterpiece. It's that's not an exaggeration.
No, it had the perfect filmmaker for it. I mean, when you look at Kubrick or however you say his name, I know people pronounce it different. I've always called him Stanley Kubrick, but when you
Same
look
as
at
myself. Mm.
his work as a whole, this was right up his alley. I mean, this, you know, look over here, but but there's always something going on. You know, it's just constantly something just keeping you going and throwing you off at all times. I mean, when you look at 2001 Space Odyssey, you've got Clockwork Orange, before Full Metal Jacket, but yeah, what else was there? There was another one he did. That was right
He's done
before.
that.
What?
Doctor Strangelove,
Yeah.
Spartacus. That's the glory. But I mean, people our age will probably remember Clockwork Orange and The Shining, and I would probably rewatch Eyes Wide Shut at some point. Not sure if I was too fond of it when I saw it first, but maybe I need to go back and rewatch it. But the genesis of this story is that Kubrick's secretary said that he would research books, and if he liked the book, he would produce a movie, direct a movie. But if he didn't like a book, she said she would hear the banging of that book off of the wall after a certain amount of time. So let's just say he goes in and he decides, I'm going to make Wuthering Heights. And 10 minutes later, you hear that book just banging off the wall. Well, she said when he went in to read The Shining, she never heard that bang. And she knew that this was their next project. Yeah. And he did talk to King. And we have this famous ongoing, even though Kubrick has been dead for so many years, we still have this controversy surrounding King and Kubrick. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
I think there was an understanding going into it that he was going to, quote unquote, be mindful of the source material, maybe not be completely 100% accurate with it. And I think somewhere along the lines, this is my opinion on stuff I've read, that somewhere along the lines, I think maybe King got it misconstrued or misunderstood what he meant. Like Kubrick was going to do it the way he wanted to do it and have his vision, but the the overall aesthetic was going to be the same. And I think there was just a miscommunication there. But to be fair, Kubrick was a weird cat. I mean, little bit that I read up on him. I mean, this guy for fun used to do complex mathematics for fun. So,
Yeah. I do them every Wednesday.
yeah, me too. But, it was just two artists, two immensely talented artists, and two very strong willed people who were very protective of their creations. And when you get those two in a room, like when you get those two types of people in a room like that, yeah, it's gonna be like two bulls. It's just.
But before we discuss the difference between the book and the movie, um, can we just talk about the word adaptation? Like, adaptation, by its very definition, is a different version of something else. It's it's creating or becoming something that is not what the past one was, and he kept the general concept in there. Apparently, King got this idea when he stayed in, ironically, a hotel called the Stanley Hotel, right?
In Colorado.
Yep. And when he was leaving, he apparently had some ghost experience in there. But when he was leaving, the last people he saw leaving were nuns, and he thought, "Oh, this building is now godless," and it gave him this idea to write this book. And so he did, and it was a big hit, as we all know. Um, but like any book, people always have this habit of saying, "Oh, the book was better." Okay, fine. If you didn't like the movie, that's grand. Um, but I think if you read a book, you don't. If I go in to see the movie, then I don't want to know what happens around every single corner. I want to see how things have changed. Look at the MCU. Classic example. Nick Fury was changed from a Caucasian to a African American, and nobody can imagine anybody playing Nick Fury now except for Sam Jackson because he's absolutely outstanding. So
He was born for the part.
he was, and here we are today. And I think, and I don't want to shit on King here because I do like King's work, right, a lot. I think he might be overplaying this a little bit. I think his agent might be kind of telling him, yeah, keep telling people you hate Kubrick's version. It's great press. He was on with Drew Barrymore recently on her talk show, and he's still talking about it. But what he said was that he would rather be attached to a movie that didn't necessarily stick to his general concept that was good than a movie that didn't necessarily tend to stick to his general concept and was absolutely awful.
But I don't think he's never really grasped the big picture of this whole thing. This book, it sold a lot prior to the movie, but this blew the fuck up when that movie came out. Yes, I have a copy of The Shining right here. And to be fair, if Kubrick would have done the movie based off of the book, the book is a very slow build, and you would have bored the audience to sleep with it. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion of the book, but that's the beauty of books. Books are supposed to be slow builds. You can't do that with a movie. When a movie, once the person pays their ticket, gets their popcorn, and sits down, you got to entertain them from the beginning to the end credits.
Okay, so spoiler alert here, right? For anyone who hasn't read the book, because we're going to spoil the shit out of it, right? If you want to go, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You've been
There are big
warned.
differences. You've been warned. Get out now. The differences are this, right? He doesn't use an X, he uses a croquet mallet.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy is a very strong, formidable character in the book, and she's not. She's very submissive in the movie, as we know. Uh, he doesn't freeze to death at the end. He blows up in the boiler room. There's no maze. It's all topiary animals, and there's you know it there's a few changes, but it doesn't stick to um it just changes some of the stuff, right? And for anyone who's seen the 90s version with Stephen Weber and Rebecca De Mornay and Melvin Van Peebles as Halloran, it's not bad, but they had to put makeup effects on Weber's face when he was going crazy.
Yeah,
You didn't
because
have to do,
he became demonically possessed.
yeah, you didn't have to do that with Jack Nicholson. Yeah, and we'll talk about what happened with these actors in a minute. So there's, I think we continue with the whole King Kubrick controversy for a little bit. There's one theory in the film that as Scatman Crothers' character is traveling to the Overlook, he passes a truck wreck, and the truck is turned on its side, and it is crushing a red Volkswagen Beetle, or as you guys would call it, a VW Bug. So the VW Bug in the book is red, and the Bug in the movie is yellow. And people are trying to say that that is Stanley Kubrick basically saying, "Up yours, King." You know.
And I
So,
don't believe that, you know. I
but the fascinating thing about this movie is that there are so many conspiracy theories surrounding it. It's extraordinary, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But I I just think King should shut up about it at this stage and get over it. He had his opportunity to remake his book, and I saw some of the TV show. It's a long time ago. I think it was 1997. It apparently was word for word, and I just watched some YouTube clips of it the other day, and just to remind myself of it. But um, no, and it is like if you think of King adaptations that are absolutely unbelievable. You can count things like Carrie. Yeah, if you go away from The Shining, so we've got Carrie by Brian De Palma. We've got Tommy Lee
Christine
Wallace,
with John Carpenter,
Christine with John Carpenter. We've got Tommy Lee Wallace's Ace. We've got the
Toby
Shawshank.
Hooper's Salem's Lot.
Toby Hooper Seventh. Yeah, we've got the Shawshank Redemption, and there's an awful lot more. But there was a lot of made-for-TV stuff that just did not cut it. And there was a lot of movies as well that ended up in the direct to DVD section or direct to video because they just, I don't know, was it the thing that King had too much involvement and influence and was pissing off these directors?
I don't know if it was that or the point that I was making earlier, that taking a book word for word and trying to translate it to the screen, it's not going to work. I mean, for example, Peter Jackson, when he made The Lord of the Rings, as a guy that's read the 3 books, I can tell you he left shitloads of stuff out. But the reason is because if he'd included everything in Tolkien's universe that he had created, instead of having, what was it, 4 movies, because Return of the King was split into 2, you would have probably had 10 freaking movies or more. Easily.
And then he went on, as you know, then to do The Hobbit and made that into 3 movies. And then you see, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because he's criticized then for cashing in on that book and the studios, etc. And of course, um, that's one thing that bugs people these days is the YouTube generation, the TikTok generation. They won't watch anything beyond a second hardly. So the studios get worried when movies are too long, when they run over the 2.5 hour mark, or when they get to the 3 hour mark, it's like they really start shitting themselves. So you've got to leave stuff on the editing room floor. And there was stuff left on the editing room floor when it came to The Shining, but we can have a chat about that. But moving on from the book, here we have this film that was released in 1980, and the production of it was done between America and also in England. So the maze is actually in England, and the hotel
Was it
exterior.
was the
Sorry,
exterior of the hotel in England as well?
the shot with the maze and the hotel was in Elstree Studios in England. They couldn't replicate it that well, um, because, to be fair, it had quite a pronounced and distinguished looking porch, or the slanted roof on it. And I think that was just something he had to kind of give in and say, I can't do this, we can't do this, and went with it. But um, the maze, as we know, isn't in the book, and that was filmed in Elstree Studios. Because, I mean, how are you going to create a maze in the Stanley Hotel above Colorado? So he hires Jack Nicholson after thinking about people like Robert De Niro, who he thought wouldn't be psychotic enough, and apparently thought Robin Williams would be too psychotic. And there was mentions of Harrison Ford as well for this role, but eventually you get Jack Nicholson. And
Not to cut you off, but could you imagine fucking Mork from Ork as Jack Torrance in this movie? I'm talking about Robin Williams.
that's what I've been told. I don't know
No,
if
I'm
that's
just
true or
saying,
not. Yeah, yeah.
not
It would be,
selling Jack Nicholson short, but dude, Robin Williams would have killed that part easily.
but apparently Kubrick thought he would have been too psychotic for the role.
Impossibly.
Yeah. And then you get Shelley Duvall, who apparently was recommended by Nicholson, and then you have a lot of other people. There's just two in particular. One man that died the other day, Joe Turkel. He would have done a few films with Kubrick, and he's fantastic in it. His face, everything about him looks incredible. And
And he was also Joe Turkel was also famous for playing in Blade Runner as the creator of the replicants, for those
yeah,
that don't know. So yeah, he just passed away the other day. So, you know,
but he's outstanding in this, and may he rest in peace. He's an absolutely outstanding actor in this, and they all are, because of, you can see that Kubrick is directing these people. And here are the famous legendary tales that come from the production of The Shining. So he wants Wendy Torrance to be the very submissive character. And apparently he told crew members to isolate her while she was on set. He told them to purposefully impact exclusion bullying upon her. And he told her things like she was fucking up this and fucking up that, and she was ruining the movie. She cried so much that she ran out of tears. They had to rehydrate her. So he fucked with her head a bit. And then he famously made Jack Nicholson eat cheese sandwiches, nothing but cheese sandwiches, for 2 weeks, just to get him into that frame of mind. But what you have at the end is two very scary things. And in terms of elevated horror, you've got Jack Nicholson, who's absolutely terrifying in it, and you have this woman who your heart goes out to, because she is just so submissive and weak, and she is frightened and you're frightened with her, and you really feel for her. Whereas if she was a stronger character, you may not feel for her, and you would probably think, "Oh yeah, she's definitely gonna survive this movie," you know?
Excuse me. Whew. Felt that sneeze coming, couldn't help it. But that was the only part of the movie that where I agreed with Stephen King. I think the book version of Wendy was better. I mean, she was a stronger female character. She was, like the mama bear. She was very protective of Danny, and having Shelley Duvall just being so, as Stephen King put it, the most what was it he said, the most misogynistic character in the history of film.
Yeah.
And for those that
I
don't
I
know,
put
Shelley Duvall in interviews has said that movie really fucked with her. I mean, it really messed with her psyche, and she still to this day says that she has kind of PTSD from that. And when they did the whole axe in the bathroom scene, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the outtakes where they showed
I have
Jack Nicholson where
yeah,
he's
yeah,
pacing
yeah, I
like a
have.
wild animal.
Yeah.
That wasn't fake. He was like literally ready to just kill everybody on the set.
Yeah.
So
60 doors. Yeah.
Yes, Kubrick pushed them to a dark fucking place.
Yeah. But you see, look, I don't want to get into tabloid journalism bullshit, but I do know that that piece of shit, Phil McGraw, I'm not even going to call him a doctor because I don't think he is, interviewed Shelley Duvall recently, a few years back. And I think he basically just fucking exploited her. And he should be ashamed of himself. And it was pure and utter salacious crap, from what I understand. And
Well,
Phil
he
McGraw has always been like that.
well he took a lot of what she said out of context too,
Yeah.
by way
I,
of
I
the way
haven't seen
they
it.
edited it.
I haven't seen it. I don't want to see it. I just don't even. I shouldn't even be talking about that guy because I just do not like him. I just think he is. He's the opposite of what I do professionally, and he turns it into complete tabloid nonsense. And no, good luck. Can't stand that guy. Um, maybe she did suffer. Maybe she does have PTSD from it. But I mean, sometimes people say, as an actor, you've got to be this emotional athlete and you've got to act from here down to your toes.
But is
So,
it safe to say that her career never really was the same after the fact? Because I think it was after that movie she did Popeye, and then it was kind of like boop, gone. There was really, you never saw much of Shelley Duvall again.
Popeye was an awful film, like it was. I mean,
It's a
you had
guilty
no.
pleasure of mine, Brandon.
Uh, fair enough. But you had Robin Williams in it, and Robin Williams was, a big star at the time after Mark and Mindy, and it just, no, no, it didn't work. So, and look, compare her to Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson has gone on to be a massive star, and people remember him for lots of things, like As Good as It Gets. They remember him from The Shining, of course, and The Departed, and the list goes on. Because Easy
Joker,
Rider,
Batman.
yeah, exactly. He's fantastic. But yeah, maybe, well, quite possibly Kubrick did push the envelope a bit too far, you know. But he got this absolutely outstanding film as a result. Yeah, and it's unfortunate if people have bad memories of it. But like apparently Scatman Crothers, when he's killed by Jack Torrance, that took something like 70 or 80 takes. And then his subsequent film was with Clint Eastwood in a movie called Bronco Billy. And his first take took the one take. and he allegedly broke down crying afterwards because he thought, here I am again in another film where I'm going to have to do take after take after take after take. Whereas Eastwood was the kind of person when he directed that, apparently, if you didn't get it in the first take, then move on. Yeah. So Kubrick was, by all accounts, the complete opposite. Um, and there was allegations of people saying, go easy on the man, you know. So I'd say there was, might have been a lot of tension in on that film set, an awful lot of tension. But still, we can't deny there's this tremendous piece of art that has come out of it. And it's just, the one thing that amazes me is it has never won anything, nothing prestigious. It was actually nominated for 3 Golden Raspberry Awards. And if anyone doesn't know what the Golden Raspberry Awards are,
You
they
don't
are,
want.
yeah, they're the equivalent, the alternative to an Oscar. So if you've got a piece of shit, they'll give you a Golden Razzie nomination. Duvall was nominated, and Kubrick was nominated for producer and director. And Hoffman went on that year to win for Kramer versus Kramer in the Academy Awards. I can't believe that Jack Nicholson didn't get a nomination for that film because he's absolutely terrifying.
Is it safe to say that maybe Stephen King had more stroke than Kubrick did, and that might be why? I mean, yeah,
Perhaps.
conspiracy theory. I mean, there's a ton of them with this film, but I mean, at that time, Stephen King was king shit, no pun intended, in Hollywood with his books because
Hmm.
everybody was scampering to make movies with him. So the
But
last thing you want to do was give an Academy Award to a movie he hated.
he never won anything. Kubrick never won anything like an Oscar. He didn't. Um, and yet he has left behind one of the most fascinating legacies of all time in cinema making. Now, if we want to get on conspiracy theory road, I suppose we have to mention the documentary Room 237. Now, Room 237 is a good watch, and it basically goes through several different theories surrounding the film. And there are certain people who sound like they're QAnon members in it, and there are certain people who sound like they're quite well educated. So the first one being that the blood that comes out of the elevator doors. At the beginning, you've got Ullman, the hotel manager, telling the Torrances that the hotel was built on an Indian burial ground. So the theory is that the blood coming up from the elevator going down all the way to the bottom of the hotel, is the blood coming up from the Indian burial ground, and that this is a metaphor for the genocide of the Native Americans. That's a very big theory, and that's believed by an awful lot of people. And there are a few other lines as well, which are clutching at straws a little bit, but the blood from the elevator, which doesn't feature in the book, is a very strong theory that supports the idea that this is a metaphor for the genocide of the Native Americans. And there are more. Do you know the other ones?
Well, I know Room 237 is basically a nod to, so the distance between the Earth and the Moon supposedly is 237,000 miles.
Okay.
And Room 237 is supposed to symbolize that because they say Stanley Kubrick was the director of the faked moon landing in 1969.
So that one people tend to criticize quite a lot, and they gaslight people for the theory on that. And look, if it's a theory that doesn't hurt anybody, fine. I've no problem with it. But it starts off with, and it's one of the most examined scenes in cinema history, where Danny Lloyd, playing Danny Torrance, is sitting on that famous carpet, and he's playing with some toy trucks and cars, and a tennis ball rolls down the pathway into the carpet. Now, the shape of the carpet is apparently supposed to replicate the launch pad of Apollo 11. And when you cut to the back of Danny Torrance, you see that the pathway that the tennis ball went down is now being closed off. So Kubrick didn't make mistakes. He was fucking with us, you know. So this little pathway of brown carpet, the tennis ball rolls into it. It meets Danny in the middle, and then when Danny lifts his head up, you can see that he's been encircled in the carpet, and the pathway is now behind him. So the symbolization of that apparently is Danny is now in the know. And when he stands up, on his jumper, he has Apollo 11 on it. And he goes into room 237. And apparently, by the way, 237, it's a longer distance to the moon than 237,000
Yeah,
miles.
because everything kind of fluctuates back and forth.
Yeah. But one particular guy said that if you look at the numbers, so you see the red door tag attached, the red key tag attached to the key that's in the door, and in capital letters it has ROOM, capital N, and lowercase o, so the abbreviation for number. And his take on that is that it's an anagram for moon room. So room 237 is the moon room. But I'll come back to 237 in a minute as well, because 237 is 217 in the book. And the claim is that even Mr. Ullman is made to look like JFK in the with the wig, with the toupee. And he does kind of, to be fair, when you think about it. And people theorize that this is Kubrick's confession to the world that he staged the moon landing, and that 2001 Space Odyssey in 65 was, or whatever year it was, can't remember, was like a dress rehearsal, shall we say, for the moon landing. Yeah. So that's way out there. And if people want to believe that, and like I say, if it's a completely harmless theory, no problem with it. Yeah, no problem at all.
The other conspiracy theory that I've come across with this film is, so if you notice, if you've watched it numerous times, pay attention to certain set pieces, like say, what was it? Was it a love seat or a couch that was behind Jack when he was typing at his writing desk, and then when Wendy approached, and then it disappeared.
Yeah.
The conspiracy theory is in Kubrick's film is Jack is living in his own hell. Like, he's always been the caretaker of the hotel. He murdered his family, and he's continuing to live that over and over and over. And because certain things will appear in a scene, and then when they come back a little bit later to that scene, whatever was there is gone, and it's a continuity error. But like you said, Kubrick never made those kinds of mistakes without there being a purpose behind it.
Yeah, there is that scene where she comes up to him and she says, he's at the typewriter, and she mentions the weather, and he turns around and he says, "What do you want me to do about it?" But when you cut to her, you see a full shot of her, one shot, and then you cut back to him and the chair is gone. And then you cut back to her again, and when you cut back to him, the chair is back there. So some people will just say that this is Kubrick just messing with your head. But as you said, it's Torrance living in his own hell that is everlasting. There is another theory, which is quite interesting, that at the beginning of the film when Danny Torrance is in the bathroom talking to his friend Tony, that you see these stickers on the door of cartoon characters. And one of them happens to be Dopey from the Seven Dwarfs. And then he has that experience where he sees the blood from the elevator, etc. And then the next experience is him waking up and a doctor examining him. And she asks him about Tony, etc. And he says, imaginary friend living in his mouth or his tummy. But as she leaves the room, the Dopey sticker is gone. And when he gets to the hotel, you have them calling him Doc. That's the first time we kind of hear. You do hear Doc earlier on, all right, but it's Halloran that calls him Doc once or twice, and then Wendy turns around and says, "How did you know we call him Doc?" And he just kind of claims, "Oh, I must have heard you saying it," you know. So Doc is implying that he's no longer ignorant now to the whole Shining, that he knows exactly what's going on here, and he has been changed. But there's an even darker theory, and it's an upsetting theory. There's a theory that um, Jack Torrance was abusing the young fella, you know. So I don't want to go into that much, you know. That's not nice to talk about, but that is
Well,
a theory.
to explain Tony a little bit, there's differences between him in the actual book and him in the movie. In the movie, yes, he's the imaginary character that's his finger and lives in his mouth and tummy. In the book, Tony is the one that refers to him as Doc. And in the book, Tony is actually Danny from the future communicating with his younger self in the past to try to keep him from going to the Overlook Hotel or to save him or something to that effect. It's really weird. It's very strange, but you know, I think Kubrick, I guess he had to make that change because you couldn't really take the movie too serious if you had like this time traveling entity that was from the future coming to visit Danny in the past type deal. But yeah, that was the differences between the two in the book.
There's a lot of these films that, when they came out, they got horrible reviews. The Thing by John Carpenter, when that came out, critics hated it. And now to this day, it's a masterpiece.
It's being
It
shown
really
in
is.
theaters again now for its 40th anniversary. It's like on a
It,
tour right now or something.
it's fantastic. It's the ultimate paranoia movie. I love that film, and the effects in it are just amazing. So, I mean, that was heavily panned when it came out. So here you have this this film that was just trounced, absolutely trampled by the critics. And then, I suppose, with the advent of the video and people becoming that bit different in their tastes in movies, you know, they started to find a new liking for it. And despite, you see, in many ways too, the whole feud, if you want to call it that, between King and Kubrick could well have been a publicity stunt that we weren't even in on. We don't know. Yeah. But there are several other conspiracy theories to this movie as well.
Yeah, like it
Uh,
was a CIA experiment on the family for mind control. There was that one.
I didn't hear that one. Yeah.
Um, Theseus and the Minotaur. That one was always one that was kind of fun for me because I love Greek mythology. So Theseus in Greek mythology was placed into a maze, and he had to escape a man who was half man and half bull, and he was put in there by King Minos. And the way he got out of the maze was as he was going through the maze, he put down a yarn and he followed the yarn back to the entrance and got out. Where In The Shining, it's kind of the same thing with Danny's in the hedge maze, and he retraces his footsteps to hide his footsteps from Jack, and then makes his escape out of the maze, and Jack in turn freezes to death, and whatever. But yeah, I just always found that conspiracy theory that Kubrick took inspiration from Theseus and the Minotaur, which is fun.
And it's there is a poster in the games room of a guy skiing, and there's this woman who thinks it looks like you say Minotaur, I say Minotaur. It's a bit like I say vitamin, you say vitamin, which is hilarious. But anyway, that's the difference between us Irish and Americans. But I say Minotaur, um, that she thinks that this skier is a Minotaur, um, and I just think she's clutching at straws there. But a lot
Well,
of
they think
people get theory.
they think Jack is too. That he's the actual bull. The half man, half bull, the monster, which he is.
But isn't it great that we can have these conversations about this film and not spar off with one another? That we can agree to disagree on things, that we don't have to get so shitty about it. I'm not going to follow with you because you like this and I don't like that. I mean, that's our opinions, and there are films you like and there are films I won't like, and there are aspects of this film that you will like and the aspects that I won't like. But to be fair, I've liked pretty much all of the film, and for me, like I was saying to you earlier on this week, Jack is terrifying in it. Shelley Duvall's character is terrifying in it. The hotel is terrifying in it. The ghosts are terrifying in it. The whole thing is just it's fucked up. And it's really after 42 years, it's still scary. And speaking of 42, we cannot forget to mention this other theory that, and I know this sounds a bit silly, but anyway, that Kubrick wanted to discuss the human nature of good versus evil, and that this may have also been a nod to World War II, because you've got 42 cars in the parking lot as the helicopter zooms in on the Overlook. You've got 42 written on the sleeve of Danny Torrance's shirt. And then you've got room 237, which was 217 in the book. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 7 is 42. And again, perhaps he's referring to, because he was very interested in making a movie about World War II, and he came very close to it. Only he learned that Spielberg was making Schindler's List, and he just said, "No, I'm not doing it now." Yeah, he really wanted to be, and we have to admire this man for his creativity. He really wanted to be incredibly original.
Yeah, like Full Metal Jacket is probably one of my dad being you never call a Marine an ex-Marine. My dad gets shitty with that. But my father has always said that was the closest true interpretation of what basic training was like back during the Vietnam War era when my father was in the Marines. So Kubrick nailed it. That's how the gunnies treated the recruits. War. Now, I think the closest thing that came to the actual battles in Vietnam was the Mel Gibson movie We Were Soldiers, but Kubrick nailed it with the whole being on Paris Island and having a guy just beating the shit out of you every day and molding you into killing machines, because that was what it was. That was basically the gist of it. You had no other job other than toting a rifle and going to Vietnam and fighting that war. That was it.
There's reference to Full Metal Jacket when people talk about The Shining. There's a scene where Wendy Torrance and Danny are out playing in the snow, and you zoom in on Jack just standing in the middle of the room, and he's got this classic sinister glare where he becomes kind of slack-jawed, and his head is kind of down like that, and his eyes, you probably can't see them right now, they they go up like that, right? And I'm not going to do it properly now because I would have to be directed to do it, but
I think he was like,
yeah. But Vincent D'Onofrio does exactly the same thing
yeah, when he
as
lost touch with reality.
yeah, so um and that's that's a very, very disturbing scene, and it's a very memorable piece of cinema, you know. Full Metal Jacket is incredible,
And to give
and
a shout out to Vincent D'Onofrio, that motherfucker is masterclass when it comes to acting. You want to learn how to be an actor? Watch Vincent D'Onofrio. Anything you give him, he just knocks it right out the damn park.
but he's just driven to it, isn't he? Private Pile, yeah, and and Matthew Modine and D'Onofrio would go on to say that they had some kind of a relationship with Kubrick, but towards the latter years that he was a bit aloof with them. Yeah. So who knows? Um, some say he was a very kind, generous man. As you said, he would just do mathematics for fun. But
He was a
he
rogue. He was a rogue. He was a rebel. He was going to do things the way he wanted, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But
and
for his fans, I mean, we appreciate it. But to his contemporaries, it was frowned upon because he didn't march to the beat. He didn't march to their beat. He marched to his own.
but I've sometimes been described as rogue myself, right? Simply because I don't want to be this linear person. It's boring. Um, I sometimes do things that maybe others are afraid to do. The way I dress, the way I say things to people. I don't sugarcoat stuff. I tell the fucking truth. But I like to get out there and try to do different things because yeah, we all um there is a mimesis to all of us. And I'm gonna go back to my Rene Girard again, right? I call it the scapegoat mechanism, where we have to blame somebody. We If something goes wrong, we get into the whole mimesis. And just because John is blaming um, company X for situation Y, I'm going to join John. And then, several other people are going to join John, and 10 other people are going to join me. And they're all going to be mimicking. We're all going to be mimicking each other. We're all going to be on the one. And we're all going to have the one opinion because somebody's going to have to lead. It's a bit like Lord of the Flies. Um, and that shouldn't be the case. Directors need creative control, and they're not getting it. From what I hear, from what a lot of people hear, they're not getting creative control. They're being basically told that you do it this way, or there's the door.
That's why I like indie film because you don't have studio heads who have no. And I know this is going to sound extremely shitty for me to say, but most of these deep pocket studio heads have no artistic talent anywhere in their body, but somehow they want to tell you how to make a movie when they can't. They don't grasp it. They just think I'll throw money at it and that'll make it good. That's not how it works. And these filmmakers are so desperate to get their foot in the door on that. It's almost like selling their soul, you know? And that's what I appreciate about the indie film. Yeah, we don't have all the money. We have to go through crowdfunding a lot of times, or we have to max out credit cards. But at the end of the day, we made the movie we wanted to make, and nobody told us how to do it.
And I would genuinely rather turn around and say, fuck you, I'm not doing that, you know, and walk away. I'm very happy with my life. the way it is. I like to make films. I like to be involved in them. I love films. I've loved them since I was a child. But you know, it's a bit like Torrance when he's sitting at the bar and he's rubbing his face and he's saying, "I'd give anything for a glass of beer." And Joe Turkel shows up. You know, apparently that's him selling his soul to the devil because he's getting the drink and he's on about the old sperm bank upstairs. And then after a while, Turkel's character says, Lloyd, he says, "Your money's no good here." Yeah. So, do you want that? You really want to sacrifice everything of who you are just for fame? No. I think people need to continue going rogue. And we've seen it. Scott Derrickson left Multiverse of Madness and they brought in Sam Raimi. And Scott Derrickson went on to make a film that everyone is talking about at the moment, The Black Phone, which I saw and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. And to be honest, I thought Multiverse of Madness was good, but Black Phone was better.
Well, here and Black Phone has a tie to Stephen King because Joe Hill
Yep. Yeah.
wrote that short story, and Joe Hill was the understudy of Stephen King and became. Joe Hill's one of my favorite comic book writers. And you think of horror comics now, just as Stephen King was the king of horror for horror novels, Joe Hill has become that for horror comics. Lock and Key, Basket Full of Heads, Black Phone, different ones like that. And that was I haven't gotten a chance to go and see that film in theaters yet. I need to go catch it before it ends up out of the theater, but
I actually don't want to tell you anything about that film. Nothing. Nothing at all. Only to say that I really enjoyed it. I don't want to tell you one thing about it because I keep saying this to people. I know we're talking about films that have been out for 42 years and more. Talking about Universal Monsters last week, which have been out for hundreds of years, but go into these movies blindly. Trust the reviews, trust people like myself who, and you who know our films. And if you enjoy horror, go in and watch this. It ain't disappointing. It's really good. Yeah. So
now Tom Savini I know did The Mask, and The Mask is pretty badass. So as is everything Tom Savini does. So
I'm not saying anything. No, I'm not saying anything at all. Yeah. So just don't get me out because I get excited and I start ruining things for you. But you'll enjoy it. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, definitely. But go back to The Shining. Um, Doctor Sleep. Uh, maybe I need to rewatch it. You know.
yeah, I think it was Ewan McGregor is one of my favorite current actors. He is so great at just about anything he does. I mean, maybe I'm being a fanboy because I'm a Star Wars fan, and to me, he is Obi-Wan more than Sir Alec Guinness was Obi-Wan, but not to sell Alec Guinness short. Ewan had more time in the character than Guinness did, but playing the part of Danny Torrance, I don't know. I don't want to give away too much because I know that movie's fairly 3-4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to give away too much on it because I know a lot of people may not have seen it. But long story short, Danny Torrance is kind of a piece of shit first of this movie.
Well, he's somebody that the premise of him is that he works in a hospice and he helps people to, hospice. He helps people with end of life care.
But he allowed himself to get drawn into those same demons that his dad did with the drinking, the drugs, the womanizing, the different things like that.
Yeah, and as you say, you don't want to spoil it, and I don't want to talk about the antagonist in it because it just, I don't know, maybe I need to rewatch it, but look, it's never going to match The Shining. And there are an awful lot of Stephen King movies that I really wanted to enjoy more, and I just didn't. Like, there was some really bad ones there. Sleepwalkers, sometimes they come back again. Some of those Children of the Corn sequels, I suppose, can't be counted, but the original is good. I do enjoy that. And
That
then
movie
some of the
scared the shit out of me as a kid.
it did me too, because you're talking about kids going around being the antagonists, and that's fucked up.
Well, I
And
grew up on a farm and we had corn, and the thing was like, under the ground in the cornfield. And I'm like, we got corn here on this fucking farm. And as a kid, I didn't want to go in the cornfield because I was scared that the dirt
uh,
devil or whatever the hell it was going to come and snatch me to Narnia or some shit.
yeah, it's a good film, and there has been a lot of sequels, and I'd say people can't get enough of the sequels. I think there might have been a most recent one, and people watched it and supported it and enjoyed it. And Linda Hamilton was in the first one, wasn't she?
Yep. He who
Yeah.
walks between the rows.
And Cujo with Dee Wallace, and there are, and it's a pity because it was such a great idea that Castle Rock didn't take off as a series. The first series was quite good, and then the second series was just, I kind of stopped halfway through. The premise being that you were going into the Stephen King universe, where Shawshank Prison was a reality, and all these other characters were a reality, and you know, like I say, some of them just didn't work. But when I think King, I always think of The Shining and I think of It. They're the two first movies that come to my mind, and Carrie. So, yeah.
Is it true that they are possibly thinking of doing a reboot or a remake of Kubrick's Shining? I've heard through the grapevine they're kind of looking into it. And I heard that they've kind of been eyeing Ben Stiller for the part of Jack Torrance in a sense. I don't know if that's just rumor and innuendo, but I've kind of read some articles here and there that maybe there's an idea floating around. And to that, I say, leave it the fuck alone. Don't try.
I
Don't try. You're going to fail.
I have not heard about that. No, no, I haven't.
Because I love Ben Stiller,
I
but
do.
he does not have that same gravitas and or energy that Jack Nicholson has to even, and I may be wrong. I may be wrong, and I have been before. But Ben Stiller and Jack Nicholson, that's two different styles of acting.
Leave it alone. Just don't bother at all. Because no doubt King will be in there, and people will just they will hate all over it. They won't like it. So I think it would be a futile effort, really. I wouldn't. I think, we can all still enjoy this film 42 years later. And the idea of it being remade again, and there are so many films, like Firestarter was remade there and came out a few months back. And it didn't exactly, if you'll pardon the pun, light up the box office. So just got to be careful. Yeah, Andy Muschietti did a really good job with It and It Chapter 2, but just you got to be careful because you've got the people who will go back to the original. And I have to say, I love both. I do love the Tommy Lee Wallace version, and I love the Andy Muschietti one because the Tommy Lee Wallace version was something I grew up with as a young teenager, and the newer one was something that I watched with my teenagers when they were that little bit younger and they were old enough to go and watch these movies. So they were quite good.
Well, it didn't have a big box office studio release into theaters. It was made for TV. So to translate it from a TV series onto the big screen, that was fine because it hadn't been done before. Where with The Shining, it's been done. It was put into theaters. And yes, it didn't do great in theaters. It got, like Brandon said, it got panned. People shit all over it. It didn't get nominated for nothing but Raspberry Awards, blase, blase, blase. But at the end of the day, Kubrick had the last laugh because it is one of the quintessential greatest horror movies ever put onto celluloid. Period. End of story. Close the book.
Yeah, yeah. And they had their opportunity to repair, if you will, stuff that they didn't like with it in the 90s with the TV show. And why go back to it again?
I watched that TV show the other day, and I remember watching it in '97, and I liked it, but I liked it less this next time I watched it. And here's the reason why: the acting didn't feel authentic. It felt so forced. Every character just felt so uncomfortable with playing the parts that they were playing. The little boy that plays Danny Torrance, he came off to me as more annoying than anything. And that's no fault to the kid. He was just doing his job.
I
And
think a lot of people will say that. Yeah,
the
a lot of
part
people.
of Jack, he just didn't bring the smoke that Jack Nicholson did. Now I get the novel is Jack slowly goes mad and then he redeems himself at the end and lets Danny go. Spoiler alert. He lets Danny go and he kills himself by blowing up the boiler room in the Stanley Hotel or Overlook Hotel. And that's the end. Well, the book version is the hotel is alive. The hotel itself is alive. It's hunting Danny and it's trying to steal Danny's power to shine and it wants to feed off him. And it's using Jack as a means to accomplish this. Like things in the hotel will attack people, like hoses will chase people and different things of that nature. Where in Kubrick's, the hotel is alive only in the fact that it's haunted by ghosts and spirits, and they're calling to Jack, who obviously has in a past life been there before. Because
And you have that brilliant scene with Delbert Grady in the bathroom, and this bathroom which is just all red, and he spills the drinks over him, and then he brings him into the bathroom to clean him up, and Nicholson says to him, or Torrance, don't I know you? And he says, I'm Mr. Grady, and he says, can you chop up your family into little bits? And then he goes, well, no, I have two daughters and a wife, but yeah, he says something like they're happy where they are or something, and then he warns him that he says, your child is quite an interesting child, and he's bringing and he uses the N word. He's bringing an N word here, and that's just a very sinister conversation. So if you want to talk about hotel being alive, you've got that conversation between Grady and Torrance, which is really creepy,
I think
especially when he says, "You've been the
Grady,
caretaker all the time."
I think Grady, his character, and the bartender played by Joe Turkel are the embodiment. They are a representation of the hotel. Like
Yeah,
they are the physical embodiment of the hotel
yeah.
that is in turn, you know, driving the Jack train along, getting him, going. Because I remember there's that one scene where I guess Wendy got the upper hand on him and locked him in that storage room, and Grady appears to him in there and goes, "Oh, she got the upper hand on you," and he goes, "Not for long." That scene. So it was almost like the hotel was taunting Jack.
And it it was helping him out because he let him out of the food storage locker, and then he went straight for the bedroom, and he took the axe and he took the bedroom door down, and Then she let Danny out the window and he went for the bathroom door. And like people say to me sometimes, why the hell did Scatman Crothers' character get killed so quickly in it? And you've got to remember, he had a purpose. His purpose was to inadvertently save Danny and Wendy by creating a distraction because Jack Torrance goes down the stairs and he goes straight for Halloran and he's dead like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
nobody saw it coming either because I've read that people in the theaters like he went through all that journey to get back there just to catch an axe in the chest. That was Kubrick's way of bet you didn't see that coming, did you?
but
And
you didn't, and that's why, because Wendy is such a submissive character, people will have this idea in her head that she's going to be killed at some point. Whereas if she's a stronger character, they're going to say, "Oh, she's definitely going to survive this." And that's what I like about Kubrick's interpretation of Wendy Torrance.
well, in the book, Jack does break her back and her leg with that croquet mallet.
Yeah.
And this is something they didn't do in the movie, but if you've not read the book, read it. There's a part in it, and it's metal as fuck. Jack takes that croquet mallet and bashes his own self in the fucking face with it. That is how crazy he's went, but it's way deeper in the book. And the book, let's look. Almost 700 pages. So yeah, you got a lot to read there. But yeah, he bashes his own face with that croquet mallet. I remember reading that like, what in the fuck, bro?
So it's Nicholson's Torrance is relentless. He chases Danny through that maze until he just gets to that point where he is a human popsicle. Yeah.
I love that
And
scene when they show him the next morning frozen.
yeah. And the memes that have come out of this movie are brilliant. You know, like when someone is waiting for something, they always show a picture of Jack Torrance frozen in the snow. It's like me waiting to get tickets for the next whatever concert, or it's just been memed so much that even you bollocks, with your my face and Denny Torrance and your face and the kids. So people, it's famous for that too. And these memes, by the way, I don't know if anyone's heard about Minions 2. I presume people have. Minions 2: The Rise of Gru made something like $250 million over the weekend worldwide. And a lot of it was due to this meme whereby people were showing up in business suits and over exaggerating their reaction to the movie for TikTok. And yeah, and because of that, it made an absolute boatload of money. So I'm sure there are huge royalties, residuals, whatever you want to call them, from Kubrick's The Shining that come in on a weekly basis, daily basis to people who were involved in it.
Yeah, I can't see going to go watch Minions in a business suit for TikTok clout, but as for you
No,
want
I
to
won't
do
be
it,
doing
go
that.
ahead.
I certainly won't be doing that. And so there we are.
I started a TikTok today so we could advertise our episodes, but I'm not trying to wear business suits to go and watch movies and look like a complete jackass. I'll leave that to you young people.
I have about 13,500 followers on TikTok. So if you want to join me over there, it's m.brendan hayes. And I have put up your little video of our promo for this show. But
So I used Reface app, guys, and I put Brandon on Danny and I put me on the twins, and I thought it was fucking hilarious.
it was brilliant. And I showed it to a lot of my friends who've never seen the movie, but they know the clip. And you see, the fact that they even know the clip is the fact that it's so famous. Yeah, come play with us, Danny is like another, we talked about classic lines last week. We belong dead and it's alive, and come play with us, Danny. And here's Johnny. You know, even King says that people come up to him in the street and shout out, "Here's Johnny," and he doesn't care anymore. And why should he?
I
He's
bet
made
back in the day he was like, "You go fuck off." Back in-
Get the fuck back here, Joker. So I won't be with you next week or the week after. I will be in the Sunshine State. Isn't that what you guys call it?
Cali, Sunshine State is Florida.
Ah, no,
We're the Rainbow State in Hawaii. What is California?
I'm definitely not going to Florida anyway.
Just California, I guess.
There is some name. Is it the Golden State?
Yeah, Tinseltown.
That's where I'm going to be this time next week. I shall be, I shall be probably on set for the third channel in California.
Hey, if you want to do a blog type thing and for the channel and just be like, hey, this is how filming's going without giving away spoilers, because I don't need Michelle coming after me wanting to kick my ass. But
I think
just
we will probably do one or two teasers, but I let Michelle decide that. She's the director, she's the boss, so I gotta go with her. But yeah, we gotta tease people about what we're doing, and
well,
I'm excited about this character. He's a nasty bastard. And I'm going to the barber's in a minute to have my beard trimmed somewhat and make myself look more. I let it grow out because this is my last opportunity to get it done today, because I'm working tomorrow and Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday I shall be traveling to Dublin, staying overnight, and then Monday afternoon I will be on a jet plane for 11 hours. I land
I'm
in San Fran.
leaving on a jet
Yep.
plane.
I land in San Fran, and I've got to drive 5 more hours up north. But I don't care, because I am picking myself up a Mustang convertible, and I look forward to that. I love my cars. Yeah.
Just remember the steering wheel's on the left side, sir. I know how you all in Ireland drive on the right. So
Sorry, what?
I said, just remember the steering wheel's on the left side, not the right.
I know. I have to say I'm going to find that a bit fucking annoying to begin with, but look, I'll get over it. Yeah.
Dude,
But
that fucked me up so bad. I drove in Europe one time and I'm like, I want to be on the other side of the road so bad, but I know I can't. I'm supposed to be on this side. And it felt so weird to me. And I'm
yeah.
sure it does to you all in the States. Like, these bloody Yanks are driving on the wrong side of the road.
Even if I'm on the dual carriageway, um, I tend to veer into the left lane all the time. Yeah. I just don't feel comfortable being in the right lane, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'll take my time. Just because I have a lot of power under my ass doesn't mean I'm going to try and get myself arrested for speeding. I've got to make my way to Eureka in one piece and not end up in some cell for the night. Yeah. So
Just be like, just start speaking Gaelic to them or something, and that way you'll be like, I can't read English, or something to that effect.
Yeah, that'll definitely get me arrested.
I think
Anyway,
next week, while Brandon's away, I'll break out my VHS collection and show you guys some of the rare and obscure ones that I have, and talk about a few of them.
and I shall watch that at some point. And I will leave some comment underneath. But I will definitely get around to watching it, because I'm sure I'm staying in a nice place called the Redwood Coast Cabins. It looks a bit like Camp Crystal Lake. So
Well, Eureka's beautiful. Eureka, California.
yeah.
It's when you get up into San Fran. San Fran used to be beautiful, but not so much anymore. I guess the homeless situation got way worse during the pandemic there, unfortunately.
People have told me that, but I mean, I'll be getting off at San Fran Airport, but I'll just be, you know, going right through San Fran and on up north. I'm not going to be hanging around San Fran for anything. I have no reason to be there.
I
Only
just love
back
the
in.
history of San Francisco just because it was actually the original city in California during the gold rush when everybody was trying to get rich quick.
Mm.
But
And I probably will visit there at some point and see the sights. But this time, I'm it's a working holiday for me. It's what they would call a busman's holiday, if you've ever heard that term.
yeah, I'm trying to get everything situated so I can go to the Sawyer Massacre premiere in August. So I'm trying to get my hotel and my plane ticket and everything booked for that.
Is that going to be in Canada or Texas?
Texas. It's going to be
Yeah.
in Austin. So Austin's a beautiful city. That's where the University of Texas is at. It's a college town, so there's a lot of. If you want to
I
party, that's where to go.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of great things about Austin. But me going back to America in August, it'd be just too close. But I do wish Steve Merlo all the best with it. And hopefully I will be able to go back to Eureka before the year is out to see the premiere of the third channel. But no, I can't go to all these places. And one day, maybe next year, you'll find me down in Hawaii in the what you call it, the Rainbow State. Yeah.
Well, I need to get my ass out to the motherland, Ireland, and visit the where a lot of my ancestors come from on my
All's
grandmother's
welcome.
side.
All's welcome.
I
Yeah.
never could figure out my lineage. On my dad's side is Scottish, and on my mom's side is Irish. And I'm like, how the fuck did that even work? Because most times Scottish and Irish don't get along. Yeah, I know that's just bullshit, but
Well, there is the whole uh, Glasgow Celtic versus Glasgow Rangers football feuding. That's not pleasant, let me tell you. Yeah. Yeah. If you're a Rangers fan and you're a Celtic fan, then chances are you're gonna fucking clash. Yeah. And you're gonna get what's called a Glasgow kiss. Do you know what that is? A
uh,
Glasgow kiss is where somebody busts you on the
yeah, it's
nose
a
and
giant
you're in.
headbutt, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Well, there's a
uh,
wrestler in WWE named Drew McIntyre, and that's one of his finishing maneuvers is the Glasgow Kiss, where he just headbutts the fuck out of somebody.
so Glasgow kisses are not fond memories of Scotland, unfortunately. And I suppose it's the more cultural types like to go to Edinburgh. Edinburgh is supposed to be a lot of fun. I've been to Wales, I've been to London so many times I can't remember, but I've never had the opportunity to go to Scotland. My daughter's been to Edinburgh and she loves it. So I will go at some point. But for now, it'll be California this year. And I'd be lucky to get over there because, like I say, with everything going on, it's going to be busy, it's going to be warm, it's going to be a bit of a difficult ride over there. But I'll do my best. Yeah.
I know it might sound silly to some, but I've actually looked into getting a kilt with
No, no.
with,
I think
with
they
with
actually.
my family colors, and because I take great pride in my Scottish Irish heritage. I do, and I've done genealogy on it. I've love reading about my ancestors and where they came from. My Irish ancestors, I mean, they didn't have it easy in the States. I mean, the Irish were looked at as dogs. I mean, garbage in the States at one point in time. And my ancestors were here during that period and they got persecuted and treated badly.
And again, it goes back to the film The Shining. Kubrick is talking about the human condition in that there is inherent evil in all of us. And we have that choice to be either that or that. So yeah, we had we had a lot of tough times in this country going back. It's actually 100 years this year since we properly became a republic. It's 100 years this year since we had our civil war, which didn't last long, thankfully, but there was a lot of people killed in it, and it was terribly unfortunate. But it was civil war basically was down to the fact that you had the British agreed to get the hell out of Ireland, and then there was a treaty there, which basically meant that they would hold on to six counties in the north, and there would be other things that Irish people would have to do, like swear oaths of allegiance to the Queen and all that, and they weren't happy with it. And you had what became pro-treaty and anti-treaty, or the other term was free staters and Republicans. So even to this day, they're still talking about making a united Ireland because you have the Republic of Ireland and you have Northern Ireland on the top. So um, that it's dividing people.
The one good thing about us Irish folk, if you're in a pub and we have a disagreement and we slug each other, once we're done, we'll just sit down and have a pint and talk story and sing songs. We never hold grudges.
You mightn't think it, but I've often slugged a few people. Yeah, I have, and I've given the odd Glasgow kiss as well. Let me tell you, and there was no foreplay with it. Yeah.
And that's a lot of respect when you can have a disagreement with somebody, you slug each other, and then while you're sitting there with your nose is bleeding, still sit down and have a beer together.
We're not all like that. There are
Oh, but
grudges, Mm.
I
but it has
admire that.
happened. It
I
has
do
happened.
admire that. You let it go. You have your squabble and you let it go is basically all it is.
We have to let it go. I always say to colleagues all the time, if we fall out about something, I said it's a bit like a husband and wife. You can't go to bed on an argument. Just iron it out because working together is going to be really shit. Um, and get it over and done with. And if it's a case that it's not going to get over and done with straight away, then going into work with these people is going to be very difficult because I can work away and I can be as taciturn as they say as you like, where I say very little to the people I don't want to talk to. So no, you've got to earn it out. Yeah. People
In a
need
word,
to just
in a word of advice to my fellow Yankees, don't try to outdrink an Irishman. It ain't gonna go well for you. I know from experience. While I was stationed in Savannah, Georgia, there's a lot of Irish folk wandering the streets of Savannah, and went into Kevin Barry's one night, and we had let's just say a friendly contest on who could drink the most Irish car bombs. And yeah, not doing that shit ever again.
well, personally, I'm not going to condone drinking, and I'm not going to say that stereotypically we're all alcoholics and drunks, but I
No,
have a penchant for brandy, but I don't drink it that often. But when I do drink it, I can fucking drink it. Yeah, it's a
I'm a,
nice drink.
I'm a wine drinker now. Every once in a while, I'll drink I'll have a snort of whiskey or a beer, but mostly I'm a wine drinker.
No, not for me. Or beer. No, beer doesn't float my boat. I'm sorry, I won't be drinking any of your American beer when I get over there. I might have a glass or two of brandy, depends on what it is. But
No, you'll be in Eureka, California. I think that's close. I don't know if that's wine country, but I know there's a lot of good wines in Cali. So
perhaps we'll see. But there's work to be done as well. So I've got to think about that. And I'm not a frequent drinker, but as I say, when I do drink, I can throw it back. Yeah.
yeah, on the weekends, while I'm sitting there messing around on my guitar or something, I'll sit there and drink a few glasses of wine and just relax. But during the work week, I don't drink because at my age, hangovers suck. And I don't want to go to work and work on people's cars with a hangover. Plus, I don't like getting drunk. I really don't. I like to just have a drink or two and enjoy myself. And And
This and coffee tend to be my drink of choice. Yeah, more often than not.
sparkling water.
Yeah. Mm. So that's what keeps me going. Yeah. So I'm gonna let you go. I have things to do today, but I shall talk to you soon, and I will be in touch with you from California, whatever the hell they call it, the Golden State. I should have known that. Yeah, because like I say, I certainly don't want to end up in Florida. All due respect to people living in Florida, but I've heard a lot of unnice things about it. Right, so and when I come back, we'll get to doing some new shows. We're open to all suggestions, and I'm going to do a few pieces for Sundown Radio as well. So I look forward to going, but I also look forward to coming back as well. Because it's nice to get back from these long journeys, having accomplished something, and being able to kind of get back to a level of normality. Because I suppose it has taken up a lot of my time, which I have no problem with. But as I say, you'll have that sense of accomplishment when you return, and I look forward to that.
And as I'm sitting here thinking, everybody, how would y'all feel that when Brandon gets back, we take a little stroll into merry old England and visit Hammer or Hammer Film Studios and talk about the legacy of Hammer Horror? Ties into Universal Pictures, but it's a little bit more dark and a lot more gothic. And it's
Well, you said that
a subject that I've been wanting to talk about for a while because I am a horror or Hammer fanboy to the gills, big time.
we can go there. Yeah, I have no problem. Yeah, definitely.
And
I'm game for anything.
next Tuesday, I'll make a video where I just show you all a bunch of. I've got a box full of VHS tapes, and I've got shit in there that probably not many people have seen. I'll break it out and show it to y'all. It's a lot of Universal. It's a lot of obscure Universal that a lot of people have not. When you think of Universal horror, you typically don't think about these certain movies. They're still great movies. They're not as great as, of course, the main line of Universal horror, but I like them, and I think everybody get a kick out of seeing them.
As I was saying last week, Halloween is just around the corner, and already people are getting hyped up for it. And I love that month. I love the month of October. I love all things scary. So Universal movie monsters will always have a place in October. They'll always have a place on Halloween, as will the Hammer Horrors, which we will discuss in time.
Well, I think that'll be it.
Okay.
Hammer horror it is. That gives me
Very good.
time because there's a lot of shit to research with Hammer horror. It's almost as vast as Universal, to be truthfully honest.
We'll get there. We'll do our best, and we'll put something together. But yeah, anyway, I'm out of here, and I
Well,
shall
my
talk to you
friend,
soon.
I bid you adieu. And to all of you people, thank you for joining us. This has been John. And it's Brandon. We'll see you again next time on Behind the Fiends.
Cheerio. Sláinte.